Okay, I think we'll get started. Great to see lots of people joining, and people saying hello in the chat. Always love to know where everyone's calling in from, and to see so many of your wonderful names come up on the screen. So yeah, very warm welcome to everyone. All right. So thanks to all of you for joining us today. So I'm presenting this webinar from the lands of the Boonwurrung people in Melbourne, and I wish to acknowledge them as the traditional custodians of the land and owners of the land. And I also wish to pay my respects to their elders past and present, and to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander elders who might be joining us today. So it's important and wonderful to see so many of you returning back to these monthly webinar sessions that we're holding at Gathered here. But if this is a first time for you, a very warm welcome. Great to have you with us today. So last month, some of you may remember that Mike, our Head of Partner Success, alongside Helen from Include a Charity, ran a really insightful session about, more generally speaking, about Include a Charity Week, and I guess the kind of impact it can have on not-for-profits all around Australia. Today, we're going to take things a step further and focus more on the practical side of things. So really looking at how you can fine-tune your upcoming activities and make the most of this opportunity. So obviously, I know that there's many of our New Zealand partners are here today as well, and a very, very warm welcome to you all. You would be familiar with Wills Month and Wills Week. Wills Month being in September and Wills Week being in July, which follows a very, very similar concept to that of Include a Charity in Australia. So most, if not all, of what we're covering today is absolutely relevant to you guys as well. So please stick around. And for those who aren't sure if they're going to do anything for Include a Charity or Wills Month, or they're maybe thinking that they're not going to do anything, please stick around as well, because what we're going to be covering off today is absolutely relevant to any kind of gift in wills campaign that you're doing throughout the year. So it doesn't really matter if you don't do it through Include a Charity Week. Yeah, very much relevant, the tips and tricks that we're going to be talking about to other times of the year as well. So please stay with us. Okay, let's have a look at the agenda. So starting off with a quick intro, and then I'm going to be handing over to our fabulous guest speaker today, who's with us, Dominque Antarakis. So she is an absolute powerhouse when it comes to fundraising copywriting. I'll do a proper introduction when we get to that part of the webinar, but I'm sure she's going to have some really interesting and valuable insights to share with us. And then after that, I'm going to go through some specific campaign recommendations, covering off on landing page configuration, looking at what audiences you could potentially be offering, gifts, the option to leave a gift in an online wills to, and then some really practical copy and messaging ideas as well. And then we're going to move into another really important part of the activity, which is being able to track and analyze the performance of all the various, if you're going to be doing some activities, and what that looks like. So we can look at what did work, what didn't work, and that can help make some really informed decisions for next time around when you come to do this again, hopefully in the future. And then finally, at the end, we'll hopefully have some time for some Q&As, but please feel free to add any questions to the Q&A box, ideally in the Q&A box rather than the chat. So yeah, and then we can have Nicola from Gathered here will be answering questions along the way, and any that she doesn't get to, or that need to be answered by either myself or Dominque, we will do that at the end. All right, intros. So I'm Lucy, the Partner Success Strategist at Gathered here. So I've had the pleasure of working with many of you who are here today over the last 4 years or so. But for those of you who I haven't met yet, really happy to connect with you, and great to have you here. So just a quick bit about me. I've spent over 20 years working in not-for-profits, so working as a fundraising and marketing, and also in social impact and social enterprise roles, all of which have really been instrumental and helped inform the work that I do at Gathered Here in the Partner Success team. So together with the rest of the team, I work closely with our partners to identify growth opportunities and develop tailored communications and visual assets, and really support our partners to educate their stakeholders and supporters about all things online wills. So now a little bit about Gather Here. So I can't believe I'm actually saying this because it's pretty amazing, and in the time that I've been here, but Gathered Here as a business has now facilitated over the creation of over 100,000 free online wills. So I think it's fair to say that we're beginning to make a dent in those big numbers that we know across Australia and New Zealand of people that didn't have wills. And we're doing it one free will at a time, which is absolutely amazing. And I can only imagine how many in another 5 years, 4 or 5 years time, how many people will have wills that don't right now. It's really great thing to think about, and something that everyone at Gathered Here is incredibly proud of, because that's what we set out to do when we started Gathered Here. When Colin, our founder, started Gathered Here, it was to make end of life planning accessible for everyone, and we're certainly on our way to do that. So I guess from the will writers side as well, the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive, and we've maintained a steady 4.9 out of 5-star rating, with over 4,500 verified 5-star reviews, which is awesome. And in addition to offering free online wills, we also to people across Australia and New Zealand, we partner with charities, as you would know, to help grow the number of gifts that are left in people's wills to them. And so, from that, we're able to share a lot of data and insights about who's pledging gifts, and the nature of those gifts, performance of the different strategies, and just, a whole bunch of really valuable information about giving behaviour in this space that, potentially, really wasn't available until online will platforms were introduced. So, as many of you probably know, we do have 2 tiers that charities or not-for-profits can join us on: the free tier or the basic tier, and the premium tier. So, there really is something for everyone, for all types of partners. And we work with over 900 partners as well, which is wild for me to say as well, considering where we started. It was, it's incredible, how much of a momentum, I guess, online wills are gaining across Australia and New Zealand. And we're talking about every state and every cause area that you can possibly imagine that we're partnering with, from global household names to local grassroots type organisations, often entirely run by volunteers or even just a single volunteer. So we really have the whole gamut of organisations that we work with. All right, so the final stat, and it's a big one. So it's estimated that over $1 billion has been pledged to hundreds, almost thousands, if not thousands, of worthy causes through gifts that have been made via Gathered Here wills alone, which is, again, an incredible number: $1 billion in estimated future income for all of your amazing organisations. Such a great milestone. Anyway, that's probably enough about Gathered Here and me. I'm going to introduce you now to Dominque, who I'm sure many of you already know or have worked with in the past. So Dominque is the CEO of Change & Co., which is a consultancy that specialises in fundraising, communications and coaching. So she helps not-for-profits sharpen their strategy and copywriting skills. And she brings an incredibly impressive background to the table. So Dominque was the editor of TEDx Sydney, and deputy editor of Yoke magazine. She also served as CEO of the copywriting agency TCC International, and she currently sits on the board of the Social Enterprise Council of New South Wales and the ACT. And that really just scratches the surface of what she's achieved in her career so far. But gives you a pretty good idea of the expertise that she's bringing to the table. So we're very lucky to have her here with us today. And Dominque has kindly agreed to share some of her valuable insights with us. So I will hand over to her now. Thanks, Dominque.
Thanks so much, Lucy, for that great intro. Yeah, so look, Lucy's going to take you through a heap of stuff around getting your Included Charity Week campaign off the ground and running smoothly, etc. But what I'd love you to do before you even launch into all of that is to think about your audience and think about what sort of messaging you want to get across to them when you're talking about gift in will, when you're asking them to make a gift, to leave you a gift in their will, etc. So some of the things we kind of know from research, the average age of people leaving a gift to a charity in their will is around about 67. And interestingly, that's dropped significantly over the last few years, largely, I would say, due to on services that are now. Because a lot of people, of course, as Lucy mentioned, don't even have a or actually starting to have a will and then thinking about inclusivity is a really good trend. People, one thing to keep in mind with these sort of statistics and research findings, of course, is that take them with a grain of salt. But when you are thinking about who target with database, these are some really good indicators to keep in mind. So average age, they tend to be female. They tend to not have children, which is really interesting. So children or grandchildren, kind of counterintuitive, right? They often don't have pets. Usually, again, within your case, they've probably been a supporter for 7+ years. They've definitely given fairly recently, possibly by credit card, and tend to give you slightly higher value gifts. Again, this is just a bit of an average to be thinking about when you're looking for people within your database to target or to ask for a gift in will. So I think about what are some of the barriers that people have to actually making a charity. So notwithstanding a lot of people who grandkids, the people who do, uh, who think I need, and so they may not be willing to give. Family might actually, what's the word? They might object in a will. So they might not have a will, but when they actually do go to make a will, um, guys, my internet is telling
Yeah,
me it's really strong. Is
I
it?
was just going
Can
to
you see
say,
me all right?
can
Breaking
see
up?
you, but you're cutting out. You're breaking up a bit. Do you want to connect
I'm going to
to?
take AirPods out. Does that
Okay,
help?
try that first.
Does that help with take my AirPods out?
Keep talking.
Sorry, is that a bit better now? I've taken my
Yeah, I
headset
think it
off.
is better. I think it is better.
Yeah.
Yeah, much
Okay.
better. Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. Sorry about that. So, some of the barriers people have is that they think they need to a lot of pressure from their family, which might account for the fact that people who don't have kids or grandkids to worry about are more likely to leave you a gift. It's not top of mind. Making a will is not top of mind, and certainly not leaving money to charity. They don't understand that they can be quite flexible. They think it's kind of an all or nothing thing, and that it has to be really large. Unless you're leaving millions, there's kind of no point. And also that it's sort of the domain of eccentrics, people who leave everything to their cat, or have a lot of money to give away, etc. So not something just ordinary. So again, when you're thinking about your bequest proposition, when you're doing a cash appeal, it's all about the urgency. It's cold, people need blankets right now. Children are starving, we need to send food. I'm just going to move to somewhere else. Sorry, guys, I'll keep chatting and see if this makes a difference. regular giving is really about steady income. So making sure that people can, the charity can keep going and know that they have plenty of money coming in to do what they need to do. Request propositions are really about that best case long-term scenario. Lucy, if you want to go to the next slide. It really needs to be very visionary and very purposeful and ultimately answers the question, where are we ultimately heading? I'll just turn my video off and hopefully that helps. And finally, I'll leave you with something that you absolutely need to remember, that the main reason someone leaves us a bequest is because we ask them to. And so we want to make sure that we're asking them well and asking them clearly.
Awesome. Thanks, Dominique. Yeah, it was all fine towards the end there. But yeah, really, really great insights. Thank you so much for sharing those with us. And now I guess we can look at how, that what you've just shared kind of plays into what our partners can, make sure that they're including when they're looking at setting up their Include a Charity Week campaigns. All right. So if you've joined us for previous webinars, you will have seen us talk, heard us talk about the difference between campaign-led fundraising and passive fundraising. So today we're definitely focusing on campaign-led fundraising. But before we dive into that, it's probably worth just reminding everyone about, how campaign-led fundraising differs to and builds on passive fundraising. So passive fundraising is what we refer to as a set and forget approach. So it involves advertising, on an online wills platform. So when when your organisation is set up, and once it's listed, it becomes visible and remains visible as a potential option for will writers to leave a gift to. When they get to that section of the will writing journey, and it really doesn't require any ongoing effort because it's just about having your brand in front of these will writers. So yes, whilst it is a super simple and effective way to generate bequests from brand new supporters, it does require financial investment to maintain that visibility over time. However, on the other hand, campaign-led fundraising is much more proactive, and it typically involves engaging directly with your existing supporters, encouraging them to write a will and hopefully asking them to consider leaving a gift as well. The good news is that whilst campaign-led fundraising might take a bit more effort than a little bit more effort than passive fundraising, it's generally really easy to execute, and also very low cost, if not free, to execute. And the other good thing about it is it gives you far greater control over your messaging when you send it, on what the supporter experience is along the way. So now we're going to look at some key activities that make up strong campaign-led activities, and how you can activate these whilst really making sure that you're minimising the time and the resource efforts that are involved, because that's what our job is at Gathered Here. One of our jobs is to provide you with support and best practice and recommendations so that you're not having to reinvent the wheel when you're running these activities. So what I'm going to be talking about now is really based off, the analysis of hundreds of different charities running Include a Charity Week campaigns. Right. So if you were at the last webinar, you might recognise this slide, but it pretty much covers all of the different types of outreach that we've seen our partners try over the years for Include a Charity Week. I know it looks like a lot, so don't panic. No one is doing all of this. They're really just picking and choosing what works for them based on their size, resources, budget, time, that kind of thing. Most commonly, we'll see partners reaching out to their supporter base with some kind of combination of these initiatives. So these are the core strategies that and the core kind of channels that we typically recommend for any of our partners who are planning and include a charity week campaign. So, and again, you could pick one or six of these. The more the more the better, obviously. But yeah, these are the kind of the six, I guess, the main ones that we would be recommending. So, including updating your website, sending a series of emails, sharing content on social media, including a message in a newsletter, doing some custom email signatures and asking staff to use them on their emails for that period of the activity, and then using mail outs or other printable resources. So, we're going to go through those individually now. So hopefully you're already using an online will platform, which is why you're here, or you've already partnered with us or with another provider. And hopefully you've also, in the very least, added some information to some evergreen information to your website about who, with a link to a free online will. And here are some examples of what that can look like. So you can see like this content isn't tied to a specific campaign or awareness month or time of year or anything like that. It's simply there as part of the gift and will page of the charity, to support anyone that happens to be looking around your website, and maybe comes across the gift and will section and is considering leaving a gift in their will. So it's just about making sure that they know that there is a free online will available to them if they need a simple will. So if you don't have an online will program or any content like this set up yet, I think it definitely be worth something considering to do. It's whilst it is a passive channel, a website, we know from experience that gifts do come from this, especially if partners are, sometimes running their own activities, maybe it's some kind of acquisition activity, and then sending their people to their gift and will page of their website. That can generate a lot of gifts as well. So for Include a Charity Week, you can really sort of take things a step further. So you can see here what Fred Hollows have done with a pop banner, which is, really, really fantastic thing to do. And I know WWF has done that in the past as well. Or as you can see in the middle example, the Salvation Army, they've actually done a specific Include a Charity Week mention, which is great. And you can see here as well, there's a sort of more of a news story piece that the Common Good has done on the right-hand side there. So, as we mentioned in the previous webinar, Include a Charity Week does tend to bring a spike in media attention around gifts in wills. So your supporters may well see something in the news and then head to your website to learn more. So the more information you have available, the easier you make it for people to take that next step. So by putting a free online will button on multiple places on your website, potentially on your gift and will page, just make it so easy for people to take up that offer of a free online will, and then hopefully they'll leave you a gift as well, as we've seen. All right, so yeah, the easier you can make it for people, the more likely they are to act and write a will, and then you hopefully receiving a gift. All right, so that's the website. So now let's move on to the email series. So for those of you who I work with, my partners, you will have heard me say this many times before, but a series of emails is hands down the most effective way to generate gifts, from your existing supporter base. So if you can only do one activity, do this one. And among our premium partners alone, nearly $80 million has been pledged through email campaigns. Because we can't track EDM or email campaign revenue for our basic partners in the same detail, so even though we can't do that, we do know that there are more than twice as many basic partners as there are premium partners we've gathered here, and that they are typically more they're running more email campaigns than premium partners. So based on that, we sort of estimate that the basic partners have received at least $200 million in bequests through sending out emails to their supporter base. So it's really is a massive revenue stream for charities. And the best part is, as I touched on before, it really sending an email or two or three, hopefully, costs virtually nothing to activate. And we provide a lot of the content recommendations, and we're going to have a look at that in a second. But it really is. It couldn't be easier to communicate a free online will offer with your supporters in this way. All right, so let's get into a bit more of the detail of an email campaign. So email cadence. So ideally, we would recommend sending 3 emails across the first 3 weeks of September. One per week. And of course, you can tailor the timing to suit your organisation. Based on what else is going on. But ideally, and I think this is why September has been selected in Australia and in New Zealand as a good month to run this activity, is because it's kind of in between your end of financial year appeal and your end of year appeal. So ideally it would have, if you're going to be running an email series of emails, that it would have its own space in that comms calendar, so there's no competing messaging, and you wouldn't want that for whatever other activity you're running either. So we do see a lot of partners that do, might send their first email out in, the beginning of August or in October. Like it really, you can still refer to include a charity week or Wills month, even if you don't actually send it out during the specific week. So it's probably more important that it has its own space in the calendar rather than having to be exactly on the day of, or the first week of September when include a charity week is. And I guess just talking about the series of emails, we do see that the second and third email often form better than the first. And I guess that it could be because that initial message plants the seed of, the offer of the free online will and being included charity week. And by the time the supporters see the second or the third email, they've had a time to reflect. It might be they might have more time at that particular moment to actually take action. But look, if your organisation, it's just not possible to send a series of 3 emails, that's okay. That's absolutely fine. If it feels like too much, you can aim for 2. If 2 is too much, aim for 1. Even a single, really well-crafted message can have a really meaningful impact, and it's just far better to do something than nothing at all. And even with that third email or the second email, if you only do 2, you could just send it to the people that have opened either the first or the second email and leave the rest of the people out of it, potentially, if you wanted to kind of just be a bit more tailored with it. All right, so as I said before, we always recommend, if possible, kicking things off in September, the first week of September. So that's when the media coverage and the public conversation around gifts and wills tends to peak for include a charity week. So ideally, it'd be great to be able to tap into that if possible. So once you've decided, how many emails you're going to send out and when they're going to go, when they're going to be sent out, or you've mapped all that out, the next step is deciding who you're going to send the emails to. So, keep it really simple. Ideally, you'd be sending a series of 3 emails to as many people as possible over the age of 18. That's kind of ideal. But excluding any confirmed bequesters, probably, like if they've already told you they've left a gift, then I probably would try and exclude them if possible. So you could do that as a one-size-fits-all email. A lot of our partners do that. If you wanted to take it a step further, you could also consider segmenting your audience into key demographics. So you can see a few examples here, and you might already have your own segments that your organizations that are specific to your organization. Um, but I guess with segmenting, the idea is just to adjust the messaging slightly for each group to help create a more personal and meaningful connection. And it doesn't have to be major changes. It could just be the first paragraph and the final paragraph, whereas the main body of the emails are the same across all the different segments. Just, so specifically speaking to, say, volunteers or lapsed donors. So it doesn't have to be overly complicated in terms of the messaging. And I guess the great thing about segmenting is it allows you to track the performance of each audience really closely. And we'll have a look at that, how we're going to do that in a little bit. But it really shows being able to track a segment really shows who's engaging with the message, and then you can sort of in the future invest more in what's working. And maybe, and if there is a segment that's sort of not responding as well as others, then, maybe needing to provide some more education or inspiration around legacy giving to that particular audience. As I said, that said, a one-size-fits-all approach is absolutely okay. And yeah, it's definitely generates just as good a results. Just depends again on the size of your organisation, the capacity, and whether you want to have all of that really detailed demographic data. All right. So the next one is, so this is in terms of looking at other segments. So you could potentially send it to, as I said before, any supporter who's over the age of 18. So this is really the largest segment. Or if that's not possible, just focusing on a segment that feels most relevant and easiest to reach. And our recommendation or suggestion would be look at going out to all of your regular donors, your regular givers, or anyone who has donated multiple times over the last 2 years, say, and especially obviously those people that have, in the very least, you would hopefully consider going out to the people that have previously expressed an interest in leaving a gift in will, either via a survey or through a tick box on some kind of response mechanism, whatever it might be. That's your low-hanging fruit. And absolutely, I would be letting them know as soon as possible that that you've got they've got access to a free online will if they need it. All right. So another option is to look at that based on age. Again, so if you didn't want to go for everyone over the age of 18, you could look at just emailing people over the age of, say, 40. Depending on what you consider to be your main audience or your target audience for gifts and wills in general. So this is definitely a viable approach, and your organisation and supporter base better than anyone. So so whilst we do strongly recommend reaching out to as many people as possible, you need to do your supporters better, so you need to do what's right for your organisation. And something that quite a few of our partners do is they will do a pilot, or just do a test out the offer with say there's a group of their lapsed donors, and just see what the response is like. And if it all goes well, then they'd be looking to kind of make the audience a much bigger and broader. All right. So now, so we've looked at how many emails you're going to send, who they're going to be sent to. The final thing is to look at what the content should actually look like. All right. So when it comes to imagery on the EDM, people-focused visuals, especially those that highlight emotion, connection, and impact, ideally tend to perform better than images related to estate planning, will writing, or legal environments. So I guess think warmth over paperwork and faces over forms is going to work a lot better with the charity supporter audience. So, authentic images are always a great choice, especially if they feature your cause, your beneficiaries, or even your supporters. If you're including part of someone's story, pairing it with a genuine photo of that person can be really powerful. On the flip side, it's best to avoid overly posed or unnatural stock images, um, and steer clear of AI generated visuals. They can come across, I guess, as inauthentic and may dilute the emotional impact of your message. Um, I'll put a caveat in there and say stock images are okay, and I know a lot of organisations have to use them absolutely, to protect the privacy of clients, but just make sure they're natural looking ones. All right. All right. So finally, we recommend using visual call to action buttons in your emails rather than relying solely on plain hyperlinks, or just URLs. They're just much more eye-catching. They, guide the reader's next step really clearly. They just make the email look more professional and polished, which helps sort of build trust. Um, could also consider doing a PS, works really well in an email, a series of emails, and that would probably need to be a hyperlink. But I've had quite a few partners do that, and that works really well, just to remind people and have a link straight to your landing page. All right, so let's look at the messaging of these emails. So Dominic sort of touched on this as well, but copywriting isn't an exact science. It's just it's never going to be a one size fits all, especially for not for profits. Every organization has its own unique brand, voice, tone, mission, values. So what works perfectly for one, might not suit another one, and that's absolutely fine and okay. But with that said, we've gathered over the last 4 years or so, lots of by analysing hundreds of partner campaigns. There are some sort of proven principles that really can help, make sure that the online will offer resonates as effectively as possible with your supporters. All right. So the first tip would be to aim for a warm, conversational but respectful tone. I mean, that's you preaching to the choir. Like you know what to do with that. Like it's same as the tone, and that you would do for an appeal or for in newsletters. So it's the same thing. But we also understand again that the tone, and the voice, of each organisation definitely is different. And so it's important that if you're going to be doing an email out to your supporters about online wills, you definitely remain consistent with how you would normally communicate with them with the tone and messaging. But I guess the actual content, making sure that that not to use any language that's kind of overly formal, legalistic, or even overly sentimental. That can be really, that doesn't, and we'll come to this in a minute as well. There's been some research done about this. It's just making sure that it's just, using that consistent language that you normally do, warm, and conversational. So I guess on the legal front, there's no need to really dive into the technicalities of writing a will. That information is best left to the actual will writing process. Although it might be okay to do a summary of the very basic summary of what's involved in a will, which it can be included in some of our the campaigns I've seen. But it's fine to mention that the online will is legally valid, because they are, of course. But the focus should also be on the human and emotional impact of having a will. So, and that could be the peace of mind that comes from knowing your affairs are in order, and that your wishes are going to be honoured in the future, and also, that there's an opportunity to leave a gift. That also aligns with the values, to your organisation. So when it comes to sentimentality, it's a fine balance. We want to create an emotional connection, but it needs to feel authentic and grounded. So I guess the next tip is to use donor-centric, and empowering language wherever possible. So again, similar to what you would do with other types of appeals, but focus on showing supporters the impact they can have, and the power that they hold, to create meaningful change. So speaking to the real tangible outcomes of a bequest and framing it as an opportunity to leave a lasting legacy. So on the flip side, trying to avoid messaging that centres on the organisation's needs, like we need your help to do X, Y, Z, or language that might make supporters feel guilted or obligated to give. So, for example, instead of saying we rely on gifts to protect koalas, you might say a gift in your will can be a powerful way to safeguard koalas and their habitats, funding vital wildlife sanctuaries, regenerative efforts, medical care. So that's a very simplified version, of course, but hopefully it illustrates the shift from organisational need to supporter impact, but without that sense of obligation for the will writer. So I touched on this earlier, but it's worth emphasising as well. You know, we also suggest including messaging about the importance of having a will, and the personal benefits for your supporters. And I know this can feel a bit unusual talking to supporters about why something is good for them, but it's actually one of the most effective strategies, because the biggest hurdle that we see, um, is actually getting your supporter, to right to feel inspired or have that sense of urgency to actually write a will, to go, I need a will. Oh, I need a will. That's the hard bit, getting them to actually start the process of writing the will. So it's not actually asking for the gift, because we know that the data shows us that charity supporters are very receptive to the idea of an online will and also leaving a gift, because once they start that will writing journey, almost we see that almost half go on to pledge a gift to our partners. So your role, is to really help them take that first step to create an account and start writing their will. So, and I guess that's why the offer of a free online will is so valuable. So you don't need to hide it. Like just show them the genuine benefits, completely free. They can update it as many times as they like in the future, and and they can use it regardless of whether they've decided to leave a gift or not. I'm going really over time here. We're at 1:45. Okay. I'm gonna whiz through these last bits because I'm sure there's gonna be. I'm just gonna have a look and see if there's lots of questions. Oh, there's a couple of questions. All right. Okay. Oh, only one question. Okay, perfect. All right, I'll keep going, but I'm gonna try and gas bag for so much as much as I am. All right. So with the copywriting side, and I guess we're all hearing a lot about AI at the moment. It's very much in the news all the time, the pros and cons, and so I guess with AI, I 100% would, and I use it myself for sure. Like just to as a it's use it as an assistant, it's helping you to generate ideas, getting unstuck if you're having you can't think about how you want to structure something. Maybe it's up just editing or polishing your draft that you've done, but it really probably shouldn't do the heavy lifting, or be used as a replacement for copywriting. But something you could consider doing is, asking it to suggest, say, 10 subject lines, with high click-through potential based on the email that you've drafted. That's a really good thing to do. So I think, beyond that, so that's I guess the tips that I've just gone through are what we'll be sharing, and we will be putting a lot of this out in a kit that we're going to be sharing after this session as well. Like I include a charity campaign kit. But I guess I just wanted to back up what we're saying with some actual research. So Russell James, who many of you will know, very well known in the global gifts and will space. So he did a well-known test where he tested 23 different phrasings of a charitable request, using a sample of nearly 10,000 individuals. And what they found was that one of the most effective approaches was to frame the request around the idea of continuing the support a donor had shown during their lifetime. So that messaging of ongoing impact really resonated and proved to be a really powerful motivator for legacy giving. And then the specific phrase that stood out from that study was support causes that have been important in your life. It's just a gentle, firming reminder that the supporter has already made a decision that this cause matters to them. They've already taken action during their lifetime, and leaving a gift is just another meaningful step in that journey. One of the less effective phrases was take effect at your death. So whilst it's technically accurate, it really lacks that warmth and can feel sort of confronting and clinical. So highlighting, as I've touched on before, the importance of the tone, having that conversational but respectful, consistent tone really outperformed the language that was overly formal or legalistic. All right. Also, the study also found that the phrase a gift to charity in your will was significantly more effective than the terms bequest or leave a legacy or planned giving. Whilst those phrases, we use those in the sector, obviously they can feel a bit abstract and outdated to the general public or your supporters. So a gift in a will is just really easy to understand, and it makes it just much easier for people to connect to the concept. And then Russell James again, along with another researcher, Claire Ratley, also explored the impact of donor stories on bequest intentions. So they conducted a study involving 40 different charities where they measured supporters' intentions to leave a bequest both before and after being exposed to donor stories. And the results were really clear that all groups exposed to bequest donor stories reported significantly greater interest in leaving a gift in their will, which is awesome. And that was something I think Dominque touched on as well, the importance of using those donor stories in your messaging. And then this is the final one. That's a really great paper by Alex Bizzari and Silvio Cardinali, analysing over 25 years worth of charity data. So one of the key findings was that one of the strongest predictors of whether someone would leave a bequest was their confidence that their loved ones would still be cared for. So again, really, I would urge you to consider building on this messaging around this idea, but by reassuring supporters that a gift in their will can come after they've provided for their family, or that even a modest gift can allow them to support both their loved ones and the causes they care about. And yeah, so then landing pages. I think we'll because I know let's allow like 10 more minutes for questions. I'm just going to whiz through these, but you'll be sent this presentation after. And we'll make sure that we include some of these landing page recommendations in the kit as well. So this is the landing pages for you. For those who don't know, this is where we recommend that you send your supporters to. It's all of our partners have their own dedicated landing page with a dedicated URL. And these are just some really good examples of what some of our partners have done with their landing pages. Right, then looking at potentially doing some social media posts, probably organic if possible, because we've found that doing paid social media where a partner advertises a free online will through their paid Facebook can be very hit and miss, mostly miss, to be honest. So if you've got the budget to explore that, go by all means do it. But yeah, we would just be recommending to do some organic social media posts throughout September. Looking at doing some mail outs. So if you're doing a newsletter around that time, you could potentially look at putting in a postcard or a bookmark. And for our premium partners, we can design those for free. Obviously, our basic partners, they can get those done themselves, but they're really great. They're really, really great to have. And then you could also look at doing some email signature banners and asking, all staff to have those on their emails for the duration of the campaign. This is looking at how we can track the performance of all your activities. This is available in the Gift and Will Management Platform, or the GMP, which all our basic and premium partners have access to, but just modified versions based on, if you're premium or basic. And so for our premium partners, you're able to, create campaigns, as you can, create as many as you like, and it will create a tracking link for you. And that tracking link is what you use on, in all your activities. And the tracking link will obviously be tied back to that specific activity, and you're able to then see, all the different, the conversion between, how many people have created an account, how many people have then gone on to complete a will, how many people have then gone on to leave a gift to your organisation for each activity, which is really great to help us, look at what we should continue for the following year, what we could do better, that kind of thing. And then from there you can also drill down into looking at some of the demographics of each of those particular activities, their age, whether they've got children, whereabouts they're located, the type of gift, the average gift per activity. So a whole bunch of stuff there. And okay, we're at the end now. Sorry, I think we've gone over a bit today, but if we will have time for, if we go till 2, we'll have time for some questions. So let me have a quick look. No open questions. So no more questions?
Yeah, I think they've mostly been answered as we went, Lucy. Some really great questions from people. Apologies earlier for the poor sound quality at my end. There, if you
That's
have any
okay.
about messaging and stuff like that.
No, it's absolutely
Sorry,
fine. I think, yeah, from what I
have a
heard,
chat.
yeah. Yeah. All good. Well, I'm glad that thanks for answering those questions along the way. Unless anyone's got anything else, we'll wrap it up there. A big thank you to Dominque for joining us today, and for sharing your insights and expertise. Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone for joining us today. I hope you got lots out of that. And yeah, we'll be sharing the recording with you all in the next couple of days. And you'll be receiving the included charity campaign kit as well over the next couple of days as well. And that will include content recommendations for your social media, for your emails, series of emails, everything that we've talked about. So yes, with that said, enjoy the rest of your day, everyone, and I will see you soon.